The grand ballroom of the Regal Hotel buzzed with excitement as the city's elite gathered for the annual charity gala. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the crowd, their light reflecting off sequined gowns and polished cufflinks. Amid the sea of designer labels and practiced smiles, two individuals stood out, not for their attire, but for the genuine passion in their eyes. Micah Thornton, the 32-year-old owner of a successful restaurant chain, moved through the crowd with ease. His simple yet elegant suit spoke of quiet confidence, a stark contrast to the ostentatious displays around him. As he engaged in conversations about sustainable food practices and ethical sourcing, his eyes constantly scanned the room, searching for meaningful connections amidst the superficial chatter. Across the room, Eloise Fairfax, the 28-year-old daughter of prominent socialites, found herself trapped in yet another vapid conversation about summer homes and yacht parties. Her emerald green dress, chosen for its understated elegance, seemed to set her apart from the glittering throng. She politely excused herself, seeking refuge near a display showcasing the charity's latest wildlife conservation efforts. It was there that fate intervened. Micah, intrigued by the display, approached just as Eloise was studying a photograph of endangered pangolins. Their eyes met, and an instant connection sparked between them. "Fascinating creatures, aren't they?" Micah commented, his voice warm and genuinely interested. Eloise nodded, grateful for a conversation that didn't revolve around social status. "Absolutely. It's heartbreaking to think they're being pushed to the brink of extinction." As they delved into a discussion about wildlife conservation, both felt a sense of relief at finding someone who shared their values. The conversation flowed effortlessly, touching on topics ranging from sustainable business practices to the importance of education in underprivileged communities. "I couldn't help but overhear your earlier conversation about ethical sourcing," Eloise said, her eyes bright with interest. "It's refreshing to meet someone who sees beyond profit margins." Micah smiled, pleasantly surprised by her astuteness. "It's a constant challenge, but one I believe is worth fighting for. Every decision we make in business has ripple effects far beyond our immediate circle." As the evening wore on, Micah and Eloise found themselves gravitating towards each other, their discussions growing deeper and more personal. They shared their frustrations with the often superficial nature of these events, and their dreams of making a tangible difference in the world. "Sometimes I wonder if these galas really accomplish anything beyond making people feel good about themselves," Eloise confessed, her voice low. Micah nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I've often felt the same way, but I've learned that even small connections made here can lead to real change. It's about finding the right people who share your vision." As the event drew to a close, both Micah and Eloise felt a reluctance to part ways. They had found in each other a kindred spirit, someone who understood the weight of privilege and the responsibility it carried. Exchanging contact information, they promised to meet again, this time away from the glitz and glamour, to further explore their shared interests and perhaps, unknowingly, the beginning of something much deeper than either could have anticipated on this star-studded night. In the weeks following the charity gala, Micah and Eloise found themselves drawn to each other like moths to a flame. Their first official date was at a small, ethical coffee shop tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. As they sipped their fair trade lattes, the conversation flowed as easily as it had that first night. Eloise was captivated by Micah's passion for sustainable business practices. He spoke animatedly about his latest initiative to source ingredients locally and reduce waste in his restaurants. "It's not always the easiest path," he admitted, "but seeing the positive impact on our community makes it all worthwhile." In turn, Micah was impressed by Eloise's dedication to environmental causes. She shared stories of her volunteer work at wildlife sanctuaries and her efforts to promote eco-friendly practices among her social circle. "It's an uphill battle sometimes," she sighed, "but every small change counts." As the weeks turned into months, their dates became more adventurous. They volunteered together at local animal shelters, attended lectures on sustainable development, and even participated in a beach cleanup drive. Each shared experience deepened their connection and reinforced their shared values. Micah found himself increasingly curious about Eloise's family background. He knew her parents were wealthy socialites, but Eloise rarely spoke about them. When he gently probed, she would skillfully change the subject, leaving Micah with a sense that there was more to the story than she was letting on. Despite this mystery, Micah was falling hard for Eloise. Her genuine compassion, quick wit, and unwavering dedication to her beliefs were unlike anything he had encountered before. He admired how she used her privilege to advocate for important causes, never taking her position for granted. Eloise, too, was deeply attracted to Micah. His humble beginnings and self-made success spoke volumes about his character. She loved how he treated everyone with equal respect, from the CEO of a major corporation to the dishwasher in his restaurant kitchen. His integrity and kindness were a breath of fresh air in her world of often superficial relationships. As their relationship blossomed, Micah began to contemplate a future with Eloise. The thought of proposing both excited and terrified him. Would she be ready for such a commitment? Would her family approve of him, given his less prestigious background? Despite his concerns, Micah's heart was set. He spent weeks searching for the perfect engagement ring, finally settling on a beautiful, ethically sourced diamond set in recycled gold. The ring symbolized their shared values and the future he hoped to build with Eloise. On a warm summer evening, Micah invited Eloise to a private dinner at his flagship restaurant. The entire place had been cleared out, with only a single table set up in the center, surrounded by candles and flowers. As they enjoyed a specially prepared meal featuring all of Eloise's favorites, Micah's nerves were on edge. Finally, as dessert was served, Micah took a deep breath and reached for Eloise's hand. "Eloise," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "these past months with you have been the happiest of my life. You challenge me to be a better person, to think beyond myself, and to strive for a better world. I can't imagine facing life's challenges or celebrating its joys without you by my side." Eloise's eyes widened as Micah slid from his chair and dropped to one knee, producing the ring box from his pocket. "Eloise Fairfax, will you marry me?" Time seemed to stand still as Eloise gazed at Micah, tears welling up in her eyes. For a moment, a flicker of hesitation crossed her face, so brief that Micah almost missed it. But then, her face broke into a radiant smile. "Yes, Micah, yes, I will marry you." As Micah slipped the ring onto her finger, Eloise marveled at its beauty and the thought that had gone into choosing it. They sealed the moment with a kiss, both feeling as though they were embarking on the greatest adventure of their lives. Yet, as they celebrated their engagement, a small part of Eloise's mind was already worrying about how her parents would react to this news. She pushed the thought aside, determined to savor this moment of pure joy with Micah. The challenges that lay ahead could wait for another day. As the initial euphoria of their engagement began to settle, Eloise found herself grappling with a growing sense of unease. The thought of introducing Micah to her parents, Jameson and C. Fairfax, filled her with dread. She had always known this moment would come, but now that it was upon her, she felt woefully unprepared. Micah, sensing her distress, gently broached the subject one evening as they cuddled on the couch in his apartment. "Eloise, darling," he began, his voice soft and reassuring, "I know you're worried about me meeting your parents. Can you tell me what's troubling you?" Eloise sighed, nestling closer to him. "It's just. They can be quite judgmental. Micah have very specific ideas about who I should be with, and I'm afraid they won't see you the way I do." Micah nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Because I wasn't born into wealth." Partly, Eloise admitted. "But it's more than that. They're very set in their ways, very traditional. I'm worried they'll dismiss all the wonderful things about you because they can't see past their own prejudices." Micah took her hand, squeezing it gently. "We'll face this together, Eloise. I'm not afraid of a challenge, and I'm certainly not afraid of showing your parents who I really am." His confidence bolstered Eloise's spirits, and she finally agreed to arrange a dinner at her parents' mansion. As the day approached, both Micah and Eloise felt the pressure mounting. On the night of the dinner, Micah arrived at the Fairfax estate, a sprawling mansion that exuded old money and privilege. He straightened his tie, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell. Eloise answered, looking stunning in a simple black dress. Her smile was tight with tension as she led Micah into the opulent foyer. "Remember," she whispered, "just be yourself." Jameson and C. Fairfax were waiting in the drawing room, their postures rigid and expressions guarded. Jameson, a tall man with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, shook Micah's hand with a grip that was just a touch too firm. C., elegant in a designer gown, offered a cool smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "So, Mr. Thornton," Jameson began as they settled into the dining room, "Eloise tells us you're in the restaurant business." Micah nodded, determined to remain polite despite the underlying condescension in Jameson's tone. "That's right, sir. I own a chain of restaurants that focus on sustainable, locally sourced cuisine." C raised an eyebrow. "How quaint. And does this business of yours actually turn a profit?" Eloise tensed, but Micah remained calm. "Indeed it does, Mrs. Fairfax. We've been fortunate enough to expand to several locations across the country." The conversation continued in this vein throughout the appetizer and main course, with Jameson and C peppering Micah with questions that teetered on the edge of rudeness. Micah handled each one with grace and honesty, impressing Eloise with his poise. As the main course was cleared away, a server brought out the final dish of the evening. Micah's eyes widened slightly as he took in the plate before him. The meat, dark and richly textured, was unlike anything he had seen before. "This is a special delicacy," Jameson announced, a hint of pride in his voice. "Not something you'd find in your average restaurant, I'm sure." Micah hesitated, his fork hovering over the meat. Something about it made him uneasy. "May I ask what kind of meat this is?" he inquired politely. C waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, just a rare game meat. Nothing for you to worry about? Do try it, Mr. Thornton. It's quite expensive." Eloise watched anxiously as Micah contemplated the dish. She could see the wheels turning in his head, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I apologize," Micah said finally, setting down his fork. "I actually follow a vegetarian diet. I should have mentioned it earlier." Jameson's eyes narrowed. "A vegetarian? How inconvenient. Surely you can make an exception for such a special occasion." Micah stood his ground, his voice firm but respectful. "I'm afraid not, sir. My dietary choices are an important part of my values and beliefs." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Eloise, desperate to diffuse the tension, quickly changed the subject to safer topics. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced smiles and stilted conversation. As they said their goodbyes, Micah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the mysterious meat dish. The way Jameson and C had avoided directly answering his question set off alarm bells in his mind. On the drive home, Eloise apologized profusely for her parents' behavior. Micah assured her it was fine, but inside, his mind was racing. He was determined to get to the bottom of the strange meat incident, unaware that this curiosity would soon lead him down a dangerous path. As the story unfolds, dear viewers, we invite you to join us on this thrilling journey. If you're enjoying this tale of love, suspicion, and hidden truths, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you captivating stories like this one. Stay tuned for the next chapter in Micah and Eloise's adventure. You won't want to miss what happens next. In the days following the dinner at the Fairfax mansion, Micah found himself unable to shake the nagging suspicion about the mysterious meat dish. His mind kept replaying the evasive answers and the strange gleam in Jameson's eyes. Determined to uncover the truth, Micah threw himself into researching rare and exotic meats. Late into the night, he pored over articles, scientific journals, and conservation reports. His laptop screen illuminated his concerned face as he delved deeper into the dark world of illegal wildlife trade. The more he learned, the more his unease grew. "This can't be," Micah muttered to himself, rubbing his tired eyes. He had stumbled upon reports of high society circles involved in the consumption of endangered species. The thought that Eloise's parents might be part of such activities made his stomach churn. Driven by a mix of curiosity and a sense of moral obligation, Micah expanded his investigation. He discreetly reached out to contacts in the restaurant industry, carefully probing for information about underground exotic meat markets. Each conversation left him more disturbed than the last. One night, as Micah was cross-referencing shipping manifests with reported wildlife smuggling routes, he noticed a pattern. Several shipments of specialty goods had been arriving at a warehouse near Lost Creek Road, just outside the city limits. The timing and frequency of these deliveries aligned suspiciously with known smuggling operations. Heart racing, Micah realized he needed to see this place for himself. He knew it was risky, but the thought of exposing such a heinous operation drove him forward. Carefully, he began to plan his reconnaissance mission. Micah gathered the necessary equipment, a high-definition camera, a voice recorder, and his smartphone loaded with extra battery packs. He chose dark, durable clothing that would allow him to move quietly and blend into the shadows. As he prepared for his covert operation, Micah struggled with whether to tell Eloise about his suspicions and plans. He didn't want to worry her or put her in an uncomfortable position regarding her parents. After much internal debate, he decided to keep his investigation to himself, at least until he had concrete evidence. The night of his planned stakeout arrived. Micah's heart pounded as he drove towards Lost Creek Road, his car loaded with his surveillance gear. The moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows across the landscape. Parking his car a safe distance away, Micah approached the warehouse on foot. The area was eerily quiet, with only the occasional rustle of leaves breaking the silence. As he drew closer, he could make out the outline of a large, nondescript building surrounded by a high fence. Crouching behind some bushes, Micah set up his camera and began documenting the scene. For hours, nothing happened. Just as he was considering calling it a night, a convoy of trucks appeared on the horizon. Micah's breath caught in his throat as he watched the vehicles approach. They entered the compound, and soon the area was a flurry of activity. Men in dark clothing began unloading crates from the trucks, their movements hurried and furtive. Zooming in with his camera, Micah gasped as he caught sight of a familiar face, Jameson Fairfax. Eloise's father was overseeing the operation, gesturing authoritatively to the workers. Micah's mind reeled. His worst fears were being confirmed before his eyes. He continued filming, determined to gather as much evidence as possible. Suddenly, a twig snapped beneath Micah's foot. The sound, though small, seemed to echo in the quiet night. One of the workers paused, peering in Micah's direction. Heart racing, Micah knew he had to act fast. He quickly packed up his equipment and began to retreat, but it was too late. Shouts erupted behind him, and the sound of heavy footsteps told him he was being pursued. Micah ran, his lungs burning as he tried to put distance between himself and his pursuers, but they knew the terrain better than he did. Before he could reach the safety of his car, rough hands grabbed him from behind. Well, what do we have here?" a gruff voice snarled. Micah found himself face to face with one of Jameson's henchmen. Dragged back to the warehouse, Micah was brought before Jameson and See. Their faces, once masked with false politeness, now showed open contempt and anger. "Mr. Thornton," Jameson said, his voice cold, "I'm disappointed. I thought you were smarter than this." See circled Micah like a predator. "What shall we do with our nosy future son-in-law, dear?" Jameson's eyes glinted dangerously. "I think Mr. Thornton needs to learn a lesson about minding his own business." Before Micah could protest, he was roughly shoved into a large cage, the kind used to transport exotic animals. The irony wasn't lost on him as the door clanged shut. As he sat in the cramped cage, surrounded by the very creatures he had sought to protect, Micah's mind raced. How would he get out of this? What would happen to Eloise if he disappeared? And most pressingly, how could he expose this operation and bring Jameson and See to justice? Little did Micah know, events were already in motion that would soon bring this dark secret into the light. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting long shadows across the warehouse compound, the stage was set for a confrontation that would change everything. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the city, Eloise paced anxiously in her apartment. Micah hadn't returned her calls or messages since the previous evening, and a gnawing sense of worry had settled in her stomach. It wasn't like him to disappear without a word, especially not after their recent engagement. Determined to find answers, Eloise decided to retrace Micah's steps. She started by visiting his apartment, using the spare key he had given her. The place was empty, but nothing seemed out of order. His laptop was missing, which struck her as odd. Micah rarely went anywhere without it. As she was about to leave, Eloise noticed a scrap of paper poking out from beneath a book on Micah's desk. Curious, she pulled it out and found a hastily scribbled note, Lost Creek Road, Warehouse. Her heart raced as she recalled Micah's recent interest in wildlife conservation and his suspicions about the meat served at her parents' house. Could he have gone to investigate something? And if so, why hadn't he told her? Eloise's worry deepened. She knew she needed help, but who could she trust? On impulse, she decided to call her father. Despite their differences, surely he would help if Micah was in trouble. "Dad," Eloise said when Jameson answered, trying to keep her voice steady, "I can't find Micah. He's been missing since last night, and I'm really worried. I found a note mentioning Lost Creek Road. Do you know anything about that area?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, longer than seemed natural. When Jameson spoke, his voice was strangely tight. "Lost Creek Road? No, I can't say I'm familiar with it." "I'm sure your fiancé is fine, Eloise. Perhaps he just needed some time alone." Something in her father's tone set off alarm bells in Eloise's mind. She had known him long enough to recognize when he was lying. "Dad, what aren't you telling me?" she pressed. "Nothing, dear," Jameson replied, a bit too quickly. "Listen, I have to go. I'm in the middle of something important. We'll talk later." Before Eloise could respond, the line went dead. She stared at her phone in disbelief, a terrible suspicion forming in her mind. Could her father be involved in Micah's disappearance? Without wasting another moment, Eloise grabbed her car keys and headed for Lost Creek Road. As she drove, her mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. She tried to push away the nagging thought that her parents might be involved in something sinister. After what felt like an eternity, Eloise arrived at a desolate stretch of road lined with warehouses. Her heart pounded as she parked her car and cautiously approached the nearest building. That's when she heard it, a familiar voice calling her name. "Eloise. Eloise, I'm here." It was Micah's voice, faint but unmistakable. Eloise ran towards the sound, her fear momentarily forgotten. As she rounded the corner of the warehouse, she came face to face with a sight that stopped her in her tracks. There, in the early morning light, stood her parents, Jameson and See, overseeing a group of men loading crates into trucks. And in the middle of it all, locked in a large animal cage, was Micah. "Mom?" Dad Eloise's voice was barely a whisper, shock and disbelief evident in her tone. "What's going on here?" Jameson and See whirled around, their faces a mix of surprise and anger. "Eloise," See exclaimed. "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be seeing this." Eloise's mind struggled to process the scene before her. The crates, the suspicious activities, Micah in a cage, it all pointed to one horrifying conclusion. "You're involved in animal smuggling, aren't you?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jameson stepped forward, his expression hardening. "Eloise, this is a complicated business. There are things you don't understand. We've built a life of luxury for you, and this is part of how we maintain it." Eloise felt as if the ground was crumbling beneath her feet. Everything she thought she knew about her parents, about her life, was being turned upside down. But one thing was clear: she needed to get Micah out of there. With a burst of courage, Eloise ran to the cage. "I'm getting you out of here, Micah," she said, her fingers fumbling with the lock. "Eloise, don't," she called out. "Think about what you're doing. This man was trying to ruin our family." But Eloise wasn't listening. With shaking hands, she managed to open the cage, and Micah stumbled out, wrapping her in a tight embrace. "We need to leave now," Micah whispered urgently. Eloise nodded, then turned to face her parents. "What you're doing is wrong," she said, her voice gaining strength. "I can't be a part of this. I won't let you hurt innocent animals or destroy ecosystems for profit." Jameson's face contorted with anger. "You ungrateful child. After everything we've done for you." But Eloise cut him off. "No, Dad, what you've done is illegal and immoral. I'm giving you one chance. Leave now, before I call the authorities." For a moment, tension crackled in the air. Then, sensing defeat, Jameson nodded to see we need to go, he said gruffly. As they hurried towards their car, Jameson called back, "This isn't over, Eloise. You'll regret this decision." As her parents' car sped away, Eloise felt a mix of relief and heartbreak. She had saved Micah and stopped the immediate smuggling operation, but at what cost? Her family was shattered, and she knew the road ahead would be difficult. Micah pulled her close, his voice soft and comforting. "You did the right thing, Eloise. I'm so proud of you." Eloise nodded, tears streaming down her face. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the warehouse yard, she knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with challenges, but also with the promise of making a real difference in the world. If this story has captivated you, dear viewers, and you'd like to hear more tales like this one, we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment with the number 1 to let us know you enjoyed this story and want more similar content. Your feedback helps us bring you the stories you love. In the days following the dramatic confrontation at the warehouse, Micah and Eloise found themselves grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. They had retreated to Micah's apartment, which now served as their sanctuary from the outside world and its pressing questions. Eloise sat on the couch, her eyes red-rimmed from crying, as Micah gently placed a cup of herbal tea in front of her. "How are you holding up?" he asked softly, taking a seat beside her. She managed a weak smile. I don't know, Micah. I feel like my entire world has been turned upside down. How could I not have known? How could I have been so blind to what my parents were doing?" Micah wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "You can't blame yourself, Eloise. Your parents went to great lengths to hide their activities. They fooled everyone, not just you." Eloise nodded. But the guilt still weighed heavily on her. "I keep thinking about all those animals. Micah, how many have suffered because of my family's greed? And now I don't even have a family anymore." Micah's heart ached for her. He knew the pain of feeling alone in the world, having built his own life from scratch. "You have me," he said firmly. "We're going to face this together, and we're going to make it right." As they sat in silence, both lost in thought, Micah's mind wandered to the evidence he had gathered. The photos and videos he had taken at the warehouse were safely stored on a secure cloud server, but he knew they needed to do more. "Eloise," he began cautiously, "I think we need to consider our next steps. Your parents are still out there, and they're likely to continue their operations if we don't stop them." Eloise tensed beside him. The thought of actively working against her parents, despite their crimes, still felt like a betrayal, but she knew Micah was right. "What do you suggest?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Micah took a deep breath. "I think we need to go to the authorities. We have evidence, and with your testimony, we could put an end to this smuggling ring once and for all." Eloise's eyes widened in fear. "But Micah, if we do that, my parents could go to prison. I know what they did was wrong, but they're still my parents. I don't know if I can do that to them." Micah understood her hesitation. Family ties were strong, and despite their actions, Jameson and C were still the people who had raised Eloise. "I know it's a difficult decision," he said gently, "but think about all the good we could do. We could save countless animals, protect endangered species, and maybe even inspire others to take a stand against wildlife trafficking." Eloise was quiet for a long moment, her internal struggle visible on her face. Finally she spoke, her voice trembling but resolute. "You're right. We have to do something. But can we give them one last chance? Maybe if we confront them, show them the evidence we have, they'll turn themselves in willingly." Micah hesitated. He wasn't sure if giving Jameson and C advance warning was wise, but he could see how important this was to Eloise. "Okay," he agreed. "We'll try it your way first, but we need to be prepared for the possibility that they won't cooperate." Over the next few days, Micah and Eloise meticulously planned their approach. They compiled all the evidence they had gathered, prepared their arguments, and even rehearsed what they would say to Jameson and C. As they worked, Eloise opened up more about her family history. "You know," she said one evening, her voice tinged with sadness, "a few years ago, we lost a big part of our family in a plane crash. My uncle's cousins. They were all gone in an instant. After that, my parents became even more obsessed with wealth and status. It was like they were trying to fill the void with material things." Micah listened intently, understanding dawning in his eyes. "That must have been incredibly difficult for all of you," he said softly. Eloise nodded, wiping away a stray tear. "It was, and now, with all of this, it feels like I'm losing my family all over again. Even if they agree to turn themselves in, nothing will ever be the same." Micah pulled her into a tight embrace. "I know it doesn't feel like it now, but we'll get through this. And when we do, we'll build a new family, one based on love, honesty, and doing what's right." As the day of their planned confrontation approached, both Micah and Eloise felt the weight of what they were about to do. They knew that regardless of the outcome, their lives would be forever changed. On the morning of the meeting, Eloise stood in front of the mirror, steeling herself for what was to come. Micah came up behind her, placing his hands on her shoulders. "Are you ready?" he asked gently. Eloise took a deep breath, meeting his eyes in the reflection. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied. "Let's do this." Together they left the apartment, hand in hand, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they drove towards the agreed meeting place, both silently hoped that Jameson and C would see reason and make the right choice. But deep down, they knew that the path to justice was rarely smooth, and they were prepared for whatever obstacles they might encounter. The city park was bustling with life on that crisp autumn morning. Joggers pounded the paths, children laughed on the playground, and elderly couples strolled hand in hand, all blissfully unaware of the high-stakes drama about to unfold in their midst. Eloise sat on a secluded bench, her hands clasped tightly in her lap to hide their trembling. Micah stood a short distance away, partially hidden behind a large oak tree, his eyes scanning the area for any sign of Jameson and C. "They're here," Micah whispered into the small microphone clipped to his collar, his heart rate quickening as he spotted the familiar figures of Eloise's parents approaching from the east entrance of the park. Eloise took a deep breath, straightening her posture and steeling herself for the confrontation to come. As Jameson and C drew closer, their faces a mixture of concern and wariness, she forced a smile onto her face. "Mom, Dad," she greeted them, her voice steadier than she felt. "Thank you for coming." C was the first to speak, her eyes darting around nervously. "Eloise, darling, what's this all about? Your message sounded so urgent." Jameson, ever the businessman, cut straight to the chase. "Is this about that unpleasantness with your fiancé? I hope you've come to your senses about him." Eloise's facade of calm began to crack. "No, Dad, this is about you and Mom, and the illegal wildlife smuggling operation you've been running." The color drained from both Jameson and Cy's faces. C reached out, as if to touch Eloise's arm, but thought better of it. "Sweetheart, you don't understand. We were just trying to." "To what?" Mom Eloise interrupted, her voice rising. "To destroy ecosystems. To drive species to extinction. All for what? More money. More status." Jameson's expression hardened. "Now listen here, young lady. You have no idea of the pressures we face, the expectations we have to meet. This business, it's complicated." "No, Dad," Eloise said firmly. "It's not complicated. It's wrong. And it needs to stop." As if on cue, Micah emerged from his hiding spot, joining Eloise on the bench. Jameson's eyes narrowed at the sight of him. "You," he spat. "This is all you're doing, isn't it? You've turned our daughter against us." Micah remained calm, his voice level as he spoke. "Mr. Fairfax, I haven't turned Eloise against anyone. We're here because we care about you, and we want to give you a chance to make this right." His eyes widened in realization. "Make this right? What are you talking about?" Eloise took a deep breath before continuing. "We have evidence, Mom, photos, videos, shipping manifests. Enough to shut down your entire operation and send you both to prison for a very long time." The silence that followed was deafening. Jameson and C exchanged panicked glances, the gravity of their situation finally sinking in. But Micah added, his voice softer now, "We're offering you a choice. Turn yourselves in, cooperate with the authorities, and use your resources to help conservation efforts instead of hindering them. If you do that, we'll advocate for leniency in your sentencing." Jameson's face contorted with anger. "You dare to threaten us? Do you have any idea who we are? Who we know?" Eloise stood up, her voice firm and unwavering. "We're not threatening you, Dad, we're trying to help you. This is your chance to do the right thing, to leave a legacy you can be proud of." For a moment, it seemed as though Jameson might lash out, but then, something in his expression changed. The anger melted away, replaced by a weariness that seemed to age him years in an instant. "See," he said softly, turning to his wife. Maybe they're right. Maybe it's time." C's eyes filled with tears as she nodded slowly. "I'm so tired, Jameson. Tired of the secrets, the constant fear of being caught. Maybe this is our chance to make amends." As Jameson and C huddled together, speaking in hushed tones, Eloise felt a wave of relief wash over her. She hadn't realized until that moment how much she had been hoping for this outcome. Micah squeezed her hand supportively as Jameson turned back to face them, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "All right," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We'll do it. We'll turn ourselves in." What happened next was a blur of activity. Police officers, who had been stationed nearby at Micah's request, approached to take Jameson and C into custody. As they were led away, C looked back at Eloise, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and something that might have been pride. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she called out, "for everything. I hope someday you can forgive us." Eloise watched, tears streaming down her face, as her parents were escorted to waiting police cars. Micah wrapped an arm around her shoulders, providing silent support as they witnessed the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. As the police cars drove away, their sirens silent out of respect for the quiet park setting, Eloise turned to Micah. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. Micah nodded, pulling her close. "We did, Eloise. It won't be easy, but this is the first step towards healing for your family, for the environment, for all of us." As they walked out of the park, hand in hand, both Micah and Eloise knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but they also knew that they would face it together, stronger for the trials they had overcome. Dear viewers, we want to express our heartfelt gratitude for staying with us through this emotional journey. Your unwavering support and engagement mean the world to us. As we approach the conclusion of this compelling tale, we encourage you to stay tuned for the final chapters. The resolution of Micah and Eloise's story promises to be just as captivating as its beginning. Thank you for being a part of this experience, and we look forward to sharing the ending with you soon. In the weeks following the arrest of Jameson and C. Fairfax, Micah and Eloise found themselves caught in a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media attention, and emotional turmoil. Despite the challenges, they clung to each other, finding strength in their love and shared commitment to a better future. As the dust began to settle, they turned their attention to a more joyous task, planning their wedding. It was a welcome distraction from the ongoing legal battles and the painful process of dismantling the smuggling operation. "What do you think about a garden wedding?" Eloise asked one evening, curled up on the couch with a stack of bridal magazines. "Something simple and intimate, surrounded by nature." Micah smiled, pulling her closer. "That sounds perfect. A celebration of life and new beginnings." They decided on a small botanical garden just outside the city, known for its diverse collection of native plants and commitment to conservation. It seemed fitting, given their shared passion for environmental protection. As they delved into the details of flowers, music, and guest lists, Eloise found herself oscillating between excitement and guilt. "Is it wrong to be happy about this when my parents are in jail?" she asked Micah one night, her voice barely above a whisper. Micah took her hand, his eyes full of understanding. "Eloise, your parents made their choices. You're allowed to move forward with your life, to find joy and build a future. That doesn't mean you love them any less." She nodded, grateful for his unwavering support. "You're right. And I think they'd want us to be happy, despite everything." As the wedding day approached, every detail fell into place. Eloise found the perfect dress, a simple yet elegant gown that made her feel like a woodland fairy. Micah, with input from his groomsmen, chose a suit that complemented the natural setting without being too casual. The night before the wedding, they took a quiet moment together in the garden. The air was heavy with the scent of blooming flowers and fireflies danced among the trees. "Can you believe we're here?" Micah asked, his arm around Eloise's waist. "After everything we've been through." Eloise leaned into him, a contented sigh escaping her lips. "It feels like a dream, but a good one, finally." The wedding day dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was blessing their union. Guests began to arrive, filling the garden with laughter and excited chatter. Close friends and family members, those who had stood by them through the tumultuous past months, gathered to witness their commitment. As Eloise walked down the aisle, a path lined with wildflowers, her eyes locked with Micah's. In that moment, all the pain and struggle of the past faded away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of love and hope for the future. Their vows, written by hand and spoken from the heart, moved many in the audience to tears. They spoke of resilience, of finding light in darkness, and of building a life founded on integrity and compassion. Micah, Eloise began, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "You've been my rock, my compass, and my home. With you, I've found the strength to face hard truths and the courage to fight for what's right. I promise to stand by you, to support your dreams, and to love you through whatever challenges life may bring." Micah's voice was thick with emotion as he responded, "Eloise, you've shown me what true bravery looks like. Your kindness, your determination, and your unwavering moral compass inspire me every day. I vow to be your partner in all things, to cherish and support you, and to work alongside you in making this world a better place." As they exchanged rings and sealed their vows with a kiss, cheers erupted from the gathered crowd. The celebration that followed was joyous and heartfelt, a perfect blend of elegance and laid-back charm that reflected the couple's personalities. Later, as they swayed together during their first dance, Micah whispered in Eloise's ear, "How are you feeling, Mrs. Thornton?" Eloise's face lit up with a radiant smile, happy, incredibly, unbelievably happy. As the reception wound down and guests began to depart, Micah and Eloise found a quiet moment alone. They stood at the edge of the garden, looking out over the twinkling lights of the city in the distance. "You know," Micah said, his arm around his new wife's shoulders, "I think this is just the beginning of our adventure." Eloise nodded, a mix of excitement and determination in her eyes. "We have so much work to do, so many wrongs to right, but together I feel like we can accomplish anything." As they shared one more kiss under the starlit sky, both Micah and Eloise felt a sense of peace and purpose. They had weathered a storm that would have torn many couples apart and emerged stronger for it. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, hand in hand, committed to building a life and a legacy they could be proud of. In the months following their wedding, Micah and Eloise threw themselves wholeheartedly into their mission to make a positive impact on the world. They used their combined resources and influence to establish a foundation dedicated to wildlife conservation and combating illegal animal trafficking. Their first major project was the creation of a sprawling animal sanctuary on the outskirts of the city. The sanctuary provided a safe haven for rescued animals, many of whom had been victims of the very smuggling operations Eloise's parents had once run. It was a bittersweet endeavor for Eloise, but one that brought her a sense of redemption and purpose. Micah, leveraging his business acumen and connections in the restaurant industry, spearheaded a campaign to promote sustainable and ethical sourcing practices. He organized workshops and seminars for fellow restaurateurs, educating them on the importance of responsible ingredient sourcing and its positive impact on wildlife conservation. Their efforts began to gain traction, attracting attention from environmental organizations and media outlets alike. Eloise found herself becoming a sought-after speaker at conservation events, sharing her unique perspective as someone who had seen both sides of the issue. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through their sanctuary, observing the animals they had helped rescue, Eloise turned to Micah with tears in her eyes. "I never imagined we could make such a difference," she said softly. Micah squeezed her hand, his eyes reflecting the same mix of pride and humility. "We're just getting started, love. There's so much more we can do." As their foundation grew, so did their family. Eloise discovered she was pregnant just as they were planning their biggest fundraising gala yet. The news brought a new dimension to their work, making their mission feel even more urgent and personal. "We're not just fighting for these animals anymore," Micah said, his hand resting gently on Eloise's growing belly. "We're fighting for the world our child will inherit." The gala was a resounding success, bringing together influential figures from across the globe to support their cause. As Eloise stood at the podium, her pregnancy now visible, she felt a surge of hope for the future. "Each of us has the power to make a difference," she told the assembled crowd. "Whether it's making ethical consumer choices, supporting conservation efforts, or speaking out against injustice, together we can create a world where all species thrive." Meanwhile, in a prison hundreds of miles away, Jameson and C. Fairfax were undergoing their own transformation. Initially resentful of their circumstances, they gradually began to engage with the rehabilitation programs offered. Jameson, once driven solely by profit, found himself drawn to courses on environmental ethics. C., a social circle now limited to fellow inmates, discovered a talent for art therapy, creating beautiful paintings of the animals she once saw only as commodities. During a supervised visit, Eloise was struck by the change in her parents. Gone was the arrogance and materialism that had defined them for so long. In its place was a humility and genuine remorse that brought tears to her eyes. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart," C said, her voice choked with emotion. "You're doing what we should have done all along." Jameson nodded in agreement. "We can't undo the harm we've caused, but we want you to know that we support your work completely. It's our hope that someday we can contribute to your efforts in whatever way we can." As Eloise left the prison that day, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The road to forgiveness would be long, but for the first time she could see a future where her family might be whole again. Back at home, Micah greeted her with open arms and understanding eyes. "How did it go?" he asked gently. Eloise leaned into his embrace, feeling their unborn child move between them. "It was healing," she replied. "I think we're all on a journey of redemption." As night fell over the city, Micah and Eloise stood on their balcony, looking out over the lights below. The world was far from perfect, but they had hope. With each animal rescued, each mind changed, and each small victory, they were moving towards a brighter future. "We've come so far," Micah mused, his arm around Eloise's shoulders. Eloise nodded, her hand resting on her belly. "And we have so far yet to go. But together, I believe we can accomplish anything." As they shared a tender kiss under the starlit sky, both Micah and Eloise felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought them to this moment. They had faced trials that would have broken many, but emerged stronger, more compassionate, and more determined to make a difference. Their story was far from over. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. With a baby on the way and a mission that spanned the globe, Micah and Eloise looked to the future with hope, love, and an unwavering commitment to creating a better world for all living creatures. Dear viewers, we hope this story has touched your hearts and perhaps inspired you to consider your own role in protecting our planet and its diverse inhabitants. Your thoughts and feelings are incredibly valuable to us. We invite you to share your impressions and opinions in the comments section of our YouTube channel. If you found this story meaningful, please don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe channel. Your support is the driving force that motivates us to continue creating compelling narratives like this one. Together, we can spread awareness and inspire positive change through the power of storytelling. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.